Since it is spooky season, I thought I'd count down my top 10 favorite haunted locations I've investigated or visited over the years across the United States. And since that would be a very long video, I'm going to break this up into two videos, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my top 10. Coming in at number 10 is the Whaley House in San Diego, California. Built by Thomas Whaley, who was a merchant, businessman, and early San Diego settler, construction began in 1856 and is known as the oldest brick structure in Southern California. The Whaley House was a hub of early San Diego community life. In addition to being the Whaley family residence, over its history, it functioned as San Diego's first commercial theater, general store, and at one point, the county courthouse. The Whaley family suffered multiple personal tragedies, and the fact that the home was built on the site of the former gallows could explain the ghostly encounters that visitors have experienced inside the home, earning this place a well-known haunted reputation. Next time you're visiting Old Town neighborhood in San Diego, make sure to stop in and pay a visit at the Whaley House. If you watch all the ghost hunter shows, this is a popular spot for investigators, so number 9 may surprise you. Waverly Hills Sanatorium is a historic building in Louisville, Kentucky, best known for its eerie reputation and haunted history. Originally opened in 1910, it served as a tuberculosis hospital during the time when the disease was widespread and incurable. The facility was expanded in 1926 to house more patients, reaching up to 400 at its peak. Because there was no cure for tuberculosis then, it is believed that thousands of people perished here, which helped turn Waverly Hills into a chilling legend among investigators. After tuberculosis was largely eradicated, the hospital closed in 1961. It was briefly used as a geriatric center before being abandoned, falling into disrepair. Over time, stories of ghost sightings, strange noises, and shadowy figures turned it into one of America's most haunted locations. If you are not into scary stuff, you can still go for their daytime history and photography tours. We did the daytime tour to get familiar with the layout of the location and to photograph with the amazing light. They have a little museum area that has a lot of the artifacts from the original hospital, so it's pretty cool to look and browse at some of the things that the doctors, nurses, and patients had while they were on site. And don't forget to visit the gift shop. We returned here 3 days later for our private overnight investigation. Sadly, we did not get much activity when we were here. We were told there had been a film crew there 2 nights prior shooting a movie on site. I think the ghosts were all peopled out when we were there. So when I was looking through my photos from this trip for this video, I happened to look at this one I took on my phone. It's around 4 a.m. We were packing up, about ready to head out because our time was up. We would have stayed a couple more hours if the guy would have let us, but he did not. So if you look at this picture taken 3:58 a.m. June 1st, 2022, if you zoom in, there's a little thing on the floor. You zoom in even further, it looks like it's a little person. It's pretty neat. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. I kept hearing something in this hallway. I kept expecting something to show itself, but it did not. But I was very patient. I waited. I even took a picture, not paying attention, hoping something would be behind me, but it wasn't.
I guess we didn't introduce ourselves on this floor. I'm Laura.
I'm Ashley. I'm Erin.
We
just
don't-
came to visit.
We don't mean any harm. We're just friends.
I was happy to mark this bucket list item off my investigation list, and I would definitely go back in the future. Let me know if you would ever go to Waverly Hills. Number 8 takes me back to the desert, the Pioneer Saloon in Good Springs, Nevada. The building was established in 1913 by George Vail. It's one of the oldest bars in southern Nevada and the oldest surviving bar in the Las Vegas area. The Pioneer Saloon is around 25 miles from the Vegas Strip. In 1915, a poker game dispute at the saloon reportedly led a miner to being shot. You can still see the bullet holes in the wall. When you're in the Old West Saloon, it's only fitting to have a shot of something, which is probably why my photo is blurry. In 2007, the saloon was added to the Nevada State Register of Historic Places. This location has been the site of numerous movies, TV shows, and music videos. The saloon has a connection with late actress Carol Lombard, who died along with 22 other people in a tragic 1942 plane crash into nearby Mount Potosi. Lombard and the others were returning from a war bond selling trip in the actress's home state of Indiana. Lombard's husband, the late great Clark Gable, spent time at the saloon waiting during the search and recovery effort. Gable is believed to be one of the spirits that frequents the saloon from time to time. On the evening of the investigation, I had been sitting on this red couch. Another investigator was sitting a little ways away from me. You know the sound leather furniture makes when you sit down? It made that sound as if someone sat between us. I looked at her and I said, "Did you do that?" She said, "It wasn't you." I said, "No." Definitely sounded like someone had taken a seat between us. Another interesting thing that happened during the investigation, we were doing a spirit box session and the person leading our group asked if the spirit could say one of our names. The name that came across was Jadine. Jadine is a unique and unusual name. Turns out the lady to my immediate right during the session was named Jadine. How wild is that? Keep in mind, I didn't know any of these people. I had never met any of them before this night. But it was a fun night, so if you're looking for something interesting to do the next time you're visiting Las Vegas, drive out a ways to the Pioneer Saloon. Landing at number 7 is Bobby Mackey's Music World in Kentucky. Sadly, the building was demolished in December 2024 with plans to rebuild a new one-story bar on the same site in 2026. So happy I did a private tour several years ago. It was just me and the tour guide. I happened to be in the area because my daughter had a competition nearby in Cincinnati. When I found out how close I was to Bobby Mackey's, I made it a point to go. Imagine life before Uber. I took a cab across the river. I'm sure the cab driver thought I was insane being dropped off in the middle of nowhere at this questionable location. I was like, "You better come back and pick me up in 2 hours." Luckily he did, and I did not go missing. Now that I think about it, it was kind of pretty sketchy what I did. But I couldn't convince another Palm parent to go with me, and I knew I had to go. They all went to the mall to go shopping, and I went to Bobby Mackey's, America's most haunted nightclub in Wilder, Kentucky. You could say I'm not the typical mom. Around 1850, the building served as a slaughterhouse and meatpacking plant in the area called Fitchtown. Over time, it became a roadhouse speakeasy and later went by the club name of the Latin Quarter. In 1978, Bobby Mackey purchased and transformed it into the infamous music Honky Tonk with live music and the ever-popular Mechanical Bull. I'm sorry I never got to experience the dance hall in full swing. Sounds like it would have been one heck of a good time. A well in the basement has always been claimed the portal or gateway to hell, tied to the building's past as a slaughterhouse and the brutal murder of Pearl Bryan. Pearl Bryan was a 22-year-old woman from Greencastle, Indiana. On or around January 31st, 1896, she traveled to Cincinnati under pretext of visiting friends, but in fact met with her boyfriend, a dental student, and his roommate. Her headless body was discovered on February 1st, 1896, in a field near Fort Thomas, Kentucky, just across the Ohio River from Cincinnati. The autopsy revealed she was roughly 5 months pregnant at the time of her death, plus there were defensive wounds on her hands. While in Cincinnati, it is alleged she was drugged. There was cocaine found in her stomach while meeting with her boyfriend and his roommate. According to evidence and later testimony, the two men, Scott Jackson and Alonzo Walling, arranged to take her into Kentucky, isolated the site, and decapitated her. Her head was never found, but it is rumored that her head was disposed of in the well. Surprisingly, I did not feel creepy at the well. The only place I felt uneasy in the building was in the female dressing rooms below the stage. I walked in to take pics, and it felt like there were a couple of females wondering why I was there. I took a couple quick pictures and bid them a good night. Over the years, staff and visitors had reported explained phenomena such as seeing apparitions, hearing voices, objects moving, thrown, cold spots. I was told people see little men or creatures hanging out below the tables. I kept my eyes out, but I did not see any little people or beings under the tables. We did a walkthrough in the upstairs apartment area. The stairs is where Bobby Mackey's wife got pushed down the stairs when she was pregnant, so I thought it would be a great spot to stop and take a picture. It was fascinating to walk around and see and hear about all the spooky stories associated with this place. Shortly after arriving, once the guide let me in, I went to the restrooms and came out, and the water faucet was completely turned on. I'm not talking about a little stream, it was pouring water. I washed my hands and turned off the faucet and went out and told the lady about the water. She said, yeah, that's one of the things the staff complain about is when they lock up for the night and do a final walkthrough, the water will be on. Silly ghost, wasting water. I'm happy I was able to visit Bobby Mackey's before it was destroyed. Now on to number 6, the Stanley Hotel in Estes Park, Colorado. This hotel is listed on the U.S. National Register of Historic Places, was built between 1907 and 1910 by Freeland Oscar Stanley, also known as F.O. Stanley, of the Stanley Steamer fame. The hotel opened on July 4th, 1909. The hotel has become famous not just for its historic architecture and beautiful mountain setting, but also for its pop culture and paranormal connections. Stephen King and his wife were the only guests at a nearly empty hotel in 1974 during a snowy off-season. King had a vivid nightmare that inspired his novel The Shining. King stayed in room 217, which became the infamous room in the book, though the number was changed to 237 in the movie. So what is the history of room 217? In 1911, a gas leak caused an explosion in room 217 while the housekeeper Elizabeth Wilson was lighting a lamp. She was blown from the second floor to the fourth, but survived, partly due to a whalebone corset she was wearing. Elizabeth is believed to be the ghost who now haunts the room. Guests have reported paranormal activities such as objects being moved, shadowy figures, guest belongings being packed away, and cold spots created in between unmarried couples as they try to sleep. Some believe the haunting activity is caused by Elizabeth Wilson's spirit. I was at the Stanley for a paranormal event and investigation. We did get to do an EVP session in room 217, and while inside the room, I experienced what you might call a vision or image of a woman in a uniform. Could this have been Elizabeth? Perhaps. I asked the hotel if they had any pictures of Elizabeth, and they informed me they did not. Unfortunately, I cannot confirm nor deny if what I saw was Elizabeth or not, but still a very interesting room to say the least. If you want to reserve the room, they call it the Stephen King room or the Stephen King suite. The 1994 movie Dumb and Dumber, starring Jeff Daniels and Jim Carrey, transformed the Stanley into the Danbury Hotel for the film. It is reported that Jim Carrey stayed in room 217 while filming and left abruptly in the middle of the night. Jim would only come in, film a scene, and then leave the hotel. I don't think he ever spoke about what happened to him in room 217, but he did refuse to stay on site after that and chose to lodge nearby at a different hotel. I stayed in room 400, not reported as one of the most haunted rooms in the hotel. However, the fourth floor is known to be one of the most active places in the hotel. People were hanging out all the time in the hallway in front of my door. The fourth floor was pretty active when I was visiting, though. During our investigation, we heard what sounded like small children running and playing down the hallway. There were no children present for our paranormal weekend, and it turns out in the early days of the hotel, the fourth floor is where the female employees and their children were housed. So maybe some of these children loved the Stanley so much they never left. Room 428 is supposed to be the truly paranormal hotspot if you want to try and connect with children's spirits. Speaking of children's spirits, I was running around the music hall in the dark when I met this lovely couple from upstate New York. They said, "Can we come with you?" I said, "Sure, but I want to go try something." And then we captured this.
We just want to confirm that you did that.
Can you shut the door again, please, Lucy? Thank you. That is awesome.
On the morning I was supposed to leave, there was so much snow. I thought I was going to be trapped at the Stanley, but I made it out alive. I don't like snow, but it really was pretty. There you have it, number 10 to number 6 on my list of haunted places that I've visited over the years. Let me know in the comments if you've ever stayed at the Stanley Hotel, and if given the chance, would you stay in the Stephen King room number 217? Don't forget to subscribe so you can see my top 5 places in my next video. Thanks for watching. Until next time, bye for now.